At this moment in economics class, we shall be treating market structure 1. Here we'll be looking at the meaning of market according to economics point of view. Then we'll go down to market according to prices, where we'll be looking at imperfect market and perfect markets. Market is where the buyers and sellers come in contact in order to exchange goods and services. Market does not imply a particular place where buyer and seller meet in order to exchange goods and services. So according to economic point of view, market can take place anywhere. Market can take place on the highway, market can take place in the classroom, market can take place on the phone, even market can take place on the internet. So where buyers and sellers come in contact imply market according to economics, not a particular place where goods and services can be bought. Market according to prices. There are two types, namely perfect market, imperfect market. In our analysis, we are trying to look at market according to prices. That is, how the buyer and seller will react when it comes into prices. Will someone be able to influence the price, or they will take the price according to market forces? So that what will lead us to the two types of market that we have mentioned: perfect market and imperfect market. Perfect market. This is where the market forces determine the price of goods and services, in which neither the buyers nor the sellers can influence the price of goods and services. It is also called competitive market or perfectly competitive market. So according to market according to prices, here it implies that either a buyer or a seller cannot influence the price of the commodity. So the price of the commodity is determined according to market forces. That is, demand and supply will determine the price of the goods or the service in this market. So as a buyer or as a seller, you don't have the power, you don't have the influence towards the price of the good. So you take the price according to the market forces. As a buyer, you take the price according to the market forces. As a seller, you also take the price according to the market forces. No one has the right to influence the price of the good in this type of market that we call perfect market or competitive market. Now, for us to say a market is a perfect market, we need to understand the features that we need in order to know that, okay, this market is perfect or not. Because in this market, we said either seller or buyer cannot influence the price of the commodity. So what are the features? What are the conditions that the market must meet before we can say it is a perfect market? Features of perfect market. That is, the conditions that the market must meet before we can call it a perfect market or competitive market. The first condition, presence of homogeneous products. That is, in this market, if the products are homogeneous, then we can say the market is competitive market or perfect market. What do you mean by this? That is, if the product can be identical in nature, that is, the products are the same in terms of size, in terms of color, in terms of the shape. So if you can have the product to be like this, then the market is a perfect market. But if the products are not the same, right, we cannot call it a homogeneous product. So such product cannot be referred to as a product in perfect market. So the product must be homogeneous, must be the same, that is identical by different sellers. Number 2, presence of large buyers and sellers. Now, we have said that in this market, no one can influence the price of the commodity, either the buyer or the seller. So for a market to have such, then we expect the market to have large number of buyers and large number of sellers. That is, as a seller in that market, you are only supplying little out of the aggregate that the industry is trying to supply the market. So if as a seller you cannot influence the price, then the market becomes perfect market. Then we have large buyers. That is, if the buyers are numerous, definitely no buyer will be able to influence the price of the commodity. So the commodity become a product in perfect market. So for us to say a market is perfect, there is need to have large buyers and large sellers, so that no one can be able to influence the price of the commodity. Number 3, free entry and free exit. For the market to be perfect, then it should be free in entering the market. That is, anyone can enter the market at any time. So if the market can be like that, the market will be perfect. That is, no restriction when it comes into entry of such industry. And free exit, that is, no one will disallow you from going out of the industry. So you are free to enter at any time. You are also free to leave the industry at any time. So if you can have such, then the market is perfect, because no one is trying to block one another from entering the industry. Number 4, absence of preferential treatment. If the market wants to be perfect, then there shouldn't be any preferential treatment. That is, no customer should be treated differently from others. All the buyers or all the customers must be treated equally, so for the market to be perfect. So if we can have the market to be out of preferential treatment, then the market is a perfect market. Number 5, perfect information. Ability of customers or buyer to have full knowledge about the market will make the market to be perfect. But if each and every buyer, once they can understand the market properly, so no seller will influence the price before them, either increasing or decreasing. But if a seller tries to increase, the buyers have already known much about the market, so they will decide to leave and go for another seller or producer. But a situation where the seller is trying to reduce the price, then he or she will be at a loss, because more buyers will come into that, and he will be the one making a loss, because the price is constant. The price is fixed according to market forces. So here, everyone, buyers and sellers, they have full knowledge about the market. So in that case, the market will become perfect market. The last one, the same ruling price. From our definition, we said no one can influence the price of the commodity. That is to say, in this market, there is a price prevailing. So either a buyer or a seller, no one can change the price. They will take it according to market forces. That's why I said perfect market is talking about a situation where prices of commodities are determined by market forces. That is, supply and demand are the one dictating the price. Not a seller or not a buyer determining the price, but the prices are determined according to market forces. Having explained perfect markets to be a market where the price is constant, no one can influence the price, either the buyer or the seller. Let's look at the second type that we call imperfect market. This is a market where the prices of goods and services are influenced by either the buyer or the sellers. That is, in this type of a market, the prices of goods and services are allowed to be influenced, either the buyer or the seller. That is, as a seller, you can influence the price of the commodity, maybe in order to increase your profit or whatever. And as a buyer, you can also influence in order for you to buy it at a lower price. So here, prices of goods are influenced. either on the side of the producer or the seller, or on the side of the consumer or the buyer. There are different types of imperfect markets, such as A. Monopoly, B. Monopolistic competition, C. Duopoly, D. Monopsony, E. Oligopoly. These are different types of imperfect market that we have. We are going to look at the definition of each before we go into the necessary conditions for imperfect market. That is, for a market to be imperfect market, what are the necessary conditions that the market must meet, as we have explained under perfectly competitive markets. A. Monopoly is an imperfect market where there is only a single producer or seller of a particular good. That is, in this market, we have only one firm to be the only one producing a particular commodity, or only a single seller selling a particular commodity. No one is competing with the seller or with the producer. So it makes the market to be a monopolistic market. B. Monopolistic competition is a market where there are many producers or sellers of differentiated goods, in which no firm or seller is large enough to dominate the market. In this market, they behave like a perfectly competitive market, likewise like a monopolist. Although we have their product to be differentiated, but they are not operating the same product. That is, they are not producing homogeneous products. So their products are heterogeneous. That is, not the same color, not the same shape, and so on and so forth. So here, but each firm can still dictate its price, unlike perfect market, where the market dictates the price. So that's why I said the producers have element of perfect market and attitude of monopoly. When I say attitude of monopoly, they dictate the price. They determine the supply that they want to take to the market. But element of perfect market, that is, there is competition in this market. They are not behaving like a pure monopoly. That is, this market is not a pure monopolist, and it is not a pure perfect market. So they are in between perfect market and monopolistic markets. C. Duopoly. It is a market which involves only two producers or sellers in the industry. That is, in this market or in this industry, we have only two producers or only two sellers. They are not more than two, and they are not less than two. So it makes the market to be duopoly. D. Monopsony is a perfect market where there is only one single buyer of a product. The three types of imperfect market we have looked into, we are talking about sellers or producers, right? But in monopsony, we are talking about only single buyer of a product. That is, irrespective of the number of producers, all the producers supply the good to only one single buyer. So in that case, the market becomes monopsony, where we have only one single buyer of a product. E. Oligopoly is an imperfect market which involves presence of few producers or sellers of the same products. In this market, we have producers or sellers, but they are not large in number. They are few in time of a producer or in time of seller selling the same product. When we go back to the four that we have explained: monopoly, monopolistic competition, duopoly, monopsony, right? Looking at E is the only one that we can say is in reality, while the rest that we have explained, they are just theoretical. So in the economy, we only have few producers. We don't have large number of producers. We don't even have a single seller that we call monopoly. Then we don't even have what we call monopolistic competition. That is, where we have large number of sellers. But in reality, we hardly see a market where we cannot count the number of producers or the number of sellers. So the only market that is in reality is what we call oligopoly, where we have few producers or few sellers of the same product. Others, they are just theory. Now, let us examine the features of imperfect market. That is, what are the necessary conditions that the market must meet before we can say it is an imperfect market. But we have said earlier on that among all the types of imperfect market that we have, only oligopoly, that is we can see it being true, while others are not. But let's look at the features. The first one, the goods are not homogeneous. That is, for a market to be imperfect market, then the goods are not the same. That is, they cannot have the same shape, the same size, the same weight, and so on and so forth. So in reality, we hardly see a situation where a product will be produced by different producers or different firms, where they will have the same size, the same shape, and so on and so forth. So no product can be that is, we can't have product that will be homogeneous. So all the products that we have, they are heterogeneous. That is, they are not the same, because quality will make them to be different, and so on and so forth. B, there is no free entry. There is no free entry. Here, in terms of an imperfect market, once they are allowed, that is, once the sellers or the producers are allowed to determine the price, they will be finding a way of blocking others in entering the market. So here, there is no free entry unless the firm is very strong in entering the industry. So imperfect market, they will not allow other firms to come in, only if the firm is strong enough to enter the market. Now, the first one that we call monopoly. Monopoly will never allow any other person to come in to compete with the firm, because they want to be the only single seller. So there is no free entry there. Then the second one, we call it monopolistic competition. There is competition, right? But the entry into this area too will be so difficult to enter unless the firm is strong enough. The third one, there is preferential treatment. We've said that the price can be influenced. So in that case, the seller can decide to treat the existing customer differently from incoming customer. The incoming customer, the existing customer can pay less, while the existing customer can pay the prevailing price that they have. So there is a preferential treatment in this market. The fourth one, there is no perfect information. The reason why the price or the prices can be influenced is as a result of a lack of perfect information about the market. The buyers, they don't have full knowledge about the market. So in that case, they can be influenced, where the producer will try to increase the price of the commodity because the buyers or the customer don't have the full knowledge. The fifth one, presence of few sellers. We can't have a market where the producer or the seller will be numerous, that is, be large in number. It's not possible. So imperfect market happen to be a market with few sellers, till we can count the number of sellers in this market. That is why the sellers are able to influence the price of the commodity. The last one, sellers are price makers. So far, the price of the commodity can be influenced. So it indicates that the sellers or the producers are price makers. They are the ones that will dictate the price based on their own policy, either to increase the price or decrease the price. Or at times, they can decide to determine the output, leaving the price for the buyers to determine. So they will only bring the goods to the market for sale. Having known the price, the buyers are willing to buy it. But in imperfect markets, irrespective of the type, they cannot determine the price as well as the output at the same time. They either pick the price, leaving the output to be determined by the market, or picking the output to be supplied, then leaving the price to be determined by the market. Examples. Question 1. A perfect market has all the following features except that A. There are many buyers and few sellers. B. There is free entry and exit. C. There is only one ruling price. D. There is perfect knowledge of the market. The right answer is A. There are many buyers and few sellers. Others are features of perfect markets. Question 2. Which of the following market structures are imperfect market in competition? Roman figure 1, monopoly. Roman figure 2, duopoly. Roman figure 3, oligopoly. A. Roman figure 1 only. B. Roman figure 2 and Roman figure 3 only. C. Roman figure 1 and Roman figure 2 only. D. Roman figure 1 and Roman figure 3 only. The right answer is B. Roman figure 2 and Roman figure 3 only. Duopoly and oligopoly are imperfect market in competition, while monopoly is not. It's only a single seller without competitors. Question 3. In a perfect market, price and quantity to be bought are determined by the A. Producers and wholesalers. B. Consumers and retailers. C. Forces of demand and supply. D. Interests of government and producer. The right answer is C. Forces of demand and supply determine that.